So in the last lecture, we looked specifically at American crime, murder particularly. So now we're going to look at the American crime rates versus some of our international counterparts, what I'm going to call modern democracies. So one of the ways we compare is looking at official statistics, so basically comparing UCR versus Interpol data. Also some of the victimization reports, the International Victimization Survey, much like the NCBS, is done internationally, although with both of these you run into jurisdictional problems, the way things are measured, the way things are defined, even language barriers when you're trying to conduct the ICBS. It's very difficult to have people be able to communicate well with people of different ethnic, cultural backgrounds, even within the same country. And I mean, if you get someone from, from southern Alabama, from around like Mobile area, versus someone from, Boston or Upper Maine, people talk differently. The level of subtitles that are used on television programs when the people are speaking English, the swamp people, and I don't know if they did it on the Jersey Shore or not. Maybe they should have. But there can be a lot of sort of cross communications that makes it difficult in some of the instances to have accurate measures. But we do have, again, it's not necessarily the individual year, but comparing these things over the course of time. So we look at homicide data specifically, as we talked about before. It's pretty high in the United States compared to other countries, 3.5 times the rate of the other 20 industrialized countries that we're looking at, modern democracies. Almost 3 times that of Canada, over 3 times that of England, over 5 times that of Germany, much higher rates than Japan. Murder is number 2 cause of death for 18 to 34-year-olds in the United States. African Americans are 6 times more likely to murder and 7 times more likely to be murdered than white Americans. Males are 7 times more likely to murder than females. For 18 to 25-year-old black males, that's 1.1% of the American population, but 27% of the clear murderers, 13% of the murder victims. So again, this very rare type of social process, homicide, is showing up very disproportionately with young African American males. As we see, 2/3 of U.S. homicides involve a gun. And we talked about the reasons why people shoot, the reasons why people killed in the last lecture. The U.S. Gun homicide rate is without rival, but also the non-gun homicide rate is without rival, number 1. 3.3 for every 100,000. That's over 6 times what it is in Canada, over 12 times what it is in Germany, almost over 20 times what it is in Spain. The rate in Mexico is fluid at times because they have a lot of unrest with cartels, so the numbers aren't necessarily great in terms of what's reported there. Robbery, we're actually not the highest. We see a rate of 146.3 every 100,000 in 2006. It's higher in major cities. You see almost double that in New York. But as far as the world, we're 4th in the industrialized world. Spain, England, Wales, Portugal are higher. 2 times the world average, though. 35 the rate of Japan. So we have these guns. The guns are a major contributing factor to a lot of the robberies that take place. 223 registered guns in the United States, probably closer to 350 million that people have. 43% of homes have a gun, 18% have a handgun. Very low ownership comparatively in Europe. I can talk about that last time a little bit and sort of how the difficulty in obtaining firearms there. But that is, a practical part of it. You can't you're going to have less gun violence if you have less guns. So we see more firearm offenses, armed robberies, and gun homicides in the United States, at least as far as gun armed robberies. And because of the quick nature of how guns work, oftentimes things that wouldn't have resulted in a fatality evolve into that. So U.S. is in the middle of the pack on other index crimes, property crimes, drug rate crimes. People just use drugs all over the world. So there's nothing American about that. The main thing is the top end violent crime, and specifically murder. But even though we're sort of the middle of the pack on a lot of the crime rates, we're number one in spending. Now, the budget is over $200 billion for the criminal justice system, number one in incarceration rates, and we also have some of the most fearful citizens, particularly in urban environments, because of the conditions they see. So some of the charts. This is a graph looking at crime in major cities versus crime in the country overall. The major city is in blue. The country as a whole is in gray, and for most places, more crime happens in major cities. The exception here is in Australia, and there's a slight bump in Portugal as well. Australia, though, they have more lawless areas in the middle of the country. It's where more crime happens in the outback. But for most areas, and we saw that again with the homicides, the robbery rate in New York City being almost twice that of the national average, or right at twice that of the national average. We see here the crime rate also higher in New York than in the average city across the country. Incarceration rates, this is per 100,000, I believe. Very high. The United States higher than Russia, South Africa, much higher than the European average. We incarcerate a lot of people every year. Also, going to the fear issue, when they ask questions like this, the appropriate sanction for a two-time 21-year-old burglar stealing a color television set, we see Americans calling for the longest prison terms of any other country, also with higher frequency in saying the person should go to prison as opposed to other countries. So we have this sort of punitive view, this outlook, sort of almost this expecting something to go wrong, I guess. But because of the high crime, the high violent crime, the highest murder rate, having that really sort of reverberating effect across the country, it makes people fear types of crime. So in England, they might not fear being robbed as much because it's less likely to be fatal. Whereas in the United States, robbery equates frequently to fatal encounter. So it makes people more fearful of what's happening. But as you can see, again, this sort of highlights the specific nature of American crime and our culture that contributes to that, the availability of guns, and the conditions that we expect our citizens to live in. So again, think about that, contextualize that within what we're seeing now in terms of people's response to what they determine to be unlivable conditions, an unlivable status quo going forward. And some of the reasons why that's happening and the responses to what's going on can be found in a lot of what the authors talk about in this text, but both texts, in the Crime of the American Dream text and Politics of Justice. So I want you all to contextualize, what's happening in the larger world with what the authors are talking about in these texts going forward.